No, so today we're here because we wanted to know more about, your project Alter. I mean, you've been launching it, if I'm not wrong, like maybe the last year, but we
Yeah,
became, yeah, and you presented in Paris actually before, everything was
exactly.
kind of locked down. And I remember because I wasn't staying the whole week and I didn't had, the opportunity to come over and see the collection, but it seems really like ages ago, but it's just 2 months ago. So,
Yeah, I mean,
and
so much
so no,
happened.
I
So
wanted
much
to ask
happened.
you, yeah, what I mean. The question is, what brought you to start this project? Why have you decided to encounter this adventure, which then we're going to talk about? But what brought you really to think about doing such a project, and it's a responsible project, which right now I think it's fundamental.
Well, I always wanted to, since I was a kid, it was always a dream of mine to have one day my own label. I've always been really interested in fashion and, self-expression and arts and creativity. As I was growing up, I decided to go to school in Paris at Marangoni in styling. So it was more like, the publication side of it. And then I worked for a little bit, and then I had an internship at Vogue. And after that, I was like, you know what, publication is maybe not creative enough. I mean, not according to my creativity. I mean, I love to draw. I love to, like
No, exactly.
collages and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I always wanted to have my brand. So why not just go back to school and learn about, pattern making, sewing and everything, to know really like the basis of it, and how to create a garment by with your own hands. And so then I did Parsons, and then I launched my thing.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, I deal with a lot of designers, and I mean, everyone has its issues because obviously, when you start, you're small, and whether you have the support from all the family or friends or partnership. I mean, the path, it's a little bit the same for everyone because, anyways, you need to find your identity, your vision, and I mean, I think that for designers right now, I'm speaking with them a lot, is that maybe I always say to designers that need to start that they have to be responsible. They cannot think of doing a new project without being responsible. But do
Yeah.
you think it's easy to be responsible? Do you think it's for a young designer because maybe they begin to ask, where can I buy,
Mm-mm.
sustainable textiles, or where can I go?
I feel it's like, for me, since the very beginning, the principles and the values of Alter was I always loved, because I have this really love also for like old stuff and vintage stuff. I love to go through shopping and everything. So it was a lot of that at first, and then I went into upcycling, and then I was like eco sustainable, eco responsible, and everything. And once you go on this path, I think like you have more and more contacts, and you get interested in these things, and then you get to have the suppliers, the factories, and the all the the fabrics as well. So it was not easy, but like I feel like more and more um, the factories of fabrics and everything are getting more and more into that. So it's, I think, like few years ago was a bit more complicated, but now it's getting more and more easy.
Yeah, I think that right now, I mean, what I'm living, and I just wanted to ask if that's your same sensation. Obviously, this lockdown has been humanity disaster because many people have lost their lives, but at a certain point, I think you try to need to be positive, and when there are big crises, there's always a big opportunity to start over again. And I think that right now, especially, the fashion industry has always been accusing, of being polluted
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
I think it's, a really beautiful white page where to rewrite things. So, and
Mm-mm.
I mean, I think this is, a start that could be something very important for everybody. And
Yeah.
your team, is it a small team, a big team? I mean, how's your team structured?
So for now, it's basically just me, and the design process and the creative process is just me, and then I have some teams, for production of the shows, and I have some people helping me with community management, for the production of the clothes. So I have different teams, but right now in terms of Alter, it's only me for now, because I really wanted to, you know, have the hand on everything. So that's my control freak part.
No, but I think a little bit the aspect of young emprendedors that we really want, you know, control freak, but it's also a way to learn, because I think that when you construct your own brand, you need to really know what's going on. And I always suggest this to designers, because it happens that like after 4 or 5 years, you know, you need to grow. So maybe people come in, and if you don't really know how it works, and maybe someone comes in and you give
really
something that you don't have under control, then, you know, things happen which I know you lose the part of your brand. So I think it's very important what you're doing right now. And anyways, it's a way to learn all new things, you know.
For sure. I mean, from you know, drawing to having like the piece walking the runway, it's such a satisfaction. And so also when you know, you thrive to like find your fabrics, find your like production, and everything. So
it's exciting.
Really,
it has to be
super exciting.
Passionate and exciting. And I wanted to ask you, Alter, where does it come, the name?
So as I said, at first it was just really me just altering the pieces, the pieces that I was buying from the thrift shops. And then I decided to do a unisex thing. So I thought, so altered, it's alter ego as well. So like for men and women.
Okay.
So it all came super smoothly. Like suddenly I was like, hey, alter's perfect, because it's alter ego. So yeah.
No, I always ask this question because I'm always very fascinating, because so many interesting stories come behind their name, you know, when it's not your personal name. And I think it's interesting how you get there, the perceptions, you know, what you have lived in your life. So it's always, I think, a nice question to ask. And going back to what you were saying, that you wanted unisex, when before, you know, since we never met, I spoke to you saying, you know, what are your, you know, focal points of Alter, and you were saying over obviously gender fluidity, inclusion, diversity, which obviously are all aspects that right now in the fashion industry are very strong elements to speak up. And so, I mean, for you, this is the essential of Alter. I mean, it's something that has to be open to everyone, right?
Yeah. Alter, like at the very first reflection that I had for Alter was like addressing a wardrobe shared for men and women. And then I got deeper into it, and I was like, no, it's not just men and women. It's really like all genders. Because like, you know, now in our society, like people get, you know, all these gender things. And I think it was really important to me to not be just men and women. You know, it was really important to have this inclusivity that's like people could recognize themselves in the brand and in fashion in general.
No, I think it's important. I mean, and it's such a strong message, and it's always about, you know, finding your identity. And I guess obviously you have. I mean, I think that right now I'm experiencing obviously the whole young generation. You're young, but also a younger generation than yourself. Obviously, are experiencing a very different time and approach, but I think they also have a huge, you know, chance. I always tell them, you know, for us, which are a different generation, it's in a way it's always going to be a little bit more difficult, because it's, you know, we are halfway through our lives, you know, but for the new generation, I always tell them, you know, right now it's like really a white paper, and you can reinvent rules, because everything has resetted now. There's not anyone that can really judge you and tell you. So I think this is really, in a way, it's beautiful and it's challenging. And what message would you want to give? I mean, today I think there are many young people that follow us, and which is the message you want also, because apart from responsibility, which is fundamental, is there a message you want to give also when you do your, you know, collection or your visions?
I always say that when I design my pieces, I always think it on my friends, you know, the people that surrounds me that are so different in terms of personality, characters, physiology. So whenever I think of a piece, I always think about everyone. And I always say that I design clothes for people, and I want them to give the personality to the clothes. I love when I see one of my pieces worn by another friend in a way that I didn't imagine, you know. It's always really nice to see how you gonna give your little touch to the clothes. So I think in general, it's just like just don't be unapologetic about yourself, and just be yourself and dress as you want. If you want one day to be like this sexy little woman and the other day you want to be a tomboy, like no one is going to tell you what to do or how you should do it. It's just your life. So yeah, that would
No,
be
in
the
fact, I
message.
was looking at your collection, and it was interesting how the fluidity between, you know, men and women comes so easily. You know, you can have an oversized denim jacket, and then you have, you know, a tuxedo with something that is broken up. So I think it's also a way of, you know, dressing, as you said, you know, going into the wardrobe without thinking too much, putting the pieces you like, and then having a look that maybe, I mean, you wouldn't think about, you know, putting it on. So I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
probably also your research, this is my interpretation, is also comes from the street, probably because you had
Yeah,
always the opportunity to travel. And which I think that when they ask me what is luxury, and for me it's not about the object, but the luxury obviously of time and traveling. It's luxury, the luxury of traveling and have the opportunity, you know, to do cultural clash and meet so many people.
Yeah, to have this balance between, like, you know, so I live in New York, and my life is in between, you know, Paris, New York, and Monaco. So I have this really like balance of this really luxurious place as Monaco, and then I have New York, which brought me this more like street style, more like, you know, underground face to Alter as well. So I think it's really the Alter is really like the optimum of everything that I've seen so far. And I think it's going to evaluate also, because I'm not done traveling. Well, for now, no, but but yeah, and I always I get inspired by everything. You know, when I walk in the street, I see, like, you know, an old guy with a big jacket, and then the little girl with like a little skirt. So I get really inspired by everything. So that's
No, that
curiosity is a big part of my design.
curiosity is essential. I always tell to
Yes.
design, I mean, don't be afraid to ask, be curious, be brave, and, you know, and that's it. And the question is that it's funny because probably they already asked you. Everyone asks what you miss most, which I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask you another question, which is, what have you learned in this lockdown? What have you done for the first time that you never did before?
I mean, I got to spend a lot of time here with my family, so that was like a big part of it. Like, you know, just having some random nights with everyone, and then I think like patience also, because I'm really like always like walking around, going from place to place, and I'm always like catching the next plane. And, you know, to settle down a little bit and just to think about, like, you know, reflecting on your life and what you're doing and why you do it, and not just being like, you know, fashion, like I need to think about the other collection and the fashion week, and you know, really concentrating on the values of life. And also for Alter, it was really important.
No, no, I think it's, I mean, because me, since I travel so much, I get like 2 planes a week and everything. And then
Yeah.
one was asking me, my God, aren't you go crazy? And I said, you know what? I mean, I miss traveling, I have to say, but the
Yeah,
fact
yeah,
of this new slow rhythm gave me the chance really to, obviously, what I did, I never did, is I didn't read books, which I don't get ashamed of, but I managed to do 2 sustainable online courses, which throughout the year would never had the time to do it.
yeah,
So,
exactly. You have the time
so
to do stuff that really matters, actually, you know, the things that you really want to do.
no, no, I think that's important. And I mean, since obviously you decided to launch your brand, we know that it's not easy, but what is the most like the most challenging moment? Because I think, as I said, to be responsible, to give a message of responsibility. I mean, you're by yourself. You need to, you know, check everything, and obviously we know that a brand we cannot be sustainable 100%. It's never going to happen. But I think it's very important to send the message and the awareness. So
Yeah.
what's, you know, like the most challenging moment you had in this before until now?
I would say that, and that I learned also during this confinement. I say it's the rhythm of, you know, the how fast fashion is going. So that was like really challenging for me, because I was by myself, and because I'm a small brand, you know, showing like 2 collections a year, trying to be as sustainable as I can, trying to stay true to the values and everything. It's you know, the pace of everything. And I think from now on, I've learned that through the confinement as well. I think I'm going to slow it down and, you know, really work on one collection a year and do it really well. Really source the fabric as much as I can, and doing as much sustainability as I can. So I think I'm just gonna like slow it down, because this really fast pace for me was really complicated, because I have all this other stuff also going on, you know, in my life. I have responsibilities with my family, so like, you know, this fast pace was a bit hard. And I think for that, and now is a good moment to do it, is to slow it down a little bit.
No, I think this is why everyone, you know, it's a big lesson to everyone to slow down. And I always underline the fact about quality and not quantity, you know, because we were all used to, I mean, Instagram, which we're talking right now, it's a beautiful platform that gave us so much, you know, freedom of expression and of, you know, of communication. At the same time, there's also the negative part of it. But I think that also it gave us too much, you know, that people were just, you know, and you have Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, and I mean,
there's
like
so many
bombarded, you know. So I
and you
think
have to
also
be up to date on everything. So
yeah,
like,
exactly. But at the same time, there's not really like a rule that you have to follow everything. I mean, because sometimes it happened to me, oh my God, I'm not on Twitter, TikTok, I'm not even gonna go into it, I have to say.
No, I'm too old already.
Too old, exactly. But the thing is that sometimes I say, you know what, I mean, you cannot be slave of what everyone else do, you know, because sometimes I think, especially for the new generation, it's very difficult, because when you see that people maybe become famous or known for doing something which then it's not really something that you really believe in, it's just about appearance. The fact is that then they want to follow them and they get lost. So I think also this probably lockdown, you know, helped them to understand, you know, what are the right things.
The true values,
yeah, the true value. So you're wearing one of your jackets, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It's oversized. Yeah, exactly. I love oversized. I've always been wearing oversized, so it's like
I love when it's like oversized, because you can put something like when you were like really feminine, or like if you're more of a toy boy, you have the choice of, you know, putting something like really nice underneath, and just like a pair of jeans, and, you know, just contrast it a little bit.
And I guess now in this period, obviously, of staying home and working on projects, have you, I mean, not that you have to tell us today, but are you working on new projects, or do you have like something new that you're inspiring to, or that you really can't wait to do?
I mean, obviously working on the next collection, that's like something, but also I'm trying to think about like ways of like conturning a little bit this confinement thing, to like start to like do pop-ups and really meet, you know, the community that I'm trying to reach through Instagram and everything, but like meet them in person. So that's really one thing that I really want to do, is like try to create like events and everything where people can come and like touch the pieces, because I sell online, but like, I know it's
that's what was my next question.
Yeah, and I mean, it's only online for now, because I'm a small brand, and obviously it's complicated to reach like the big wholesale platforms, but like really to get people to get interested in like the materials, and get people to get more interested in this values of fluidity, sustainability, and everything, and try to like continue to spread this message.
No, I think that's important. I mean, we as, you know, media, when they ask us, but will the fashion industry change after this? I'm optimistic, but I think that every one of us has a really big responsibility, because we as media have to bring as much consciousness and awareness, and you on your other side as a designer need to do it in the right way, and also communicate, because obviously then the final consumer, I think that if they get too used to get into shops where you just find, you know, a white t-shirt that costs maybe 40 or 35, 40 euros, but they explain you why it's for them expensive, is because there's something, you know, happening, you know, about. So I
and
think
that you don't need like 5 white t-shirts of like $10.
No, exactly.
That you can have one that is really good, really like responsible, and that it was
and it lasts.
And it lasts, exactly.
Yeah, always going back to quantity and not quality. I think that's that's very important. And you obviously talk about the community, your friends or even family. Do they help you out, meaning not telling you things, help you out to inspire, understand maybe what people want? I mean, the fact of community right now is very strong. I think most of the young generation use it really as a team, even though they don't work with you, but as a team to understand, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
to be inspired. And is this something very important for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, while I was working like in my apartment in New York, you know, doing the first sketches of the first collection, I always like try to ask people like, how do you think that would fit in your wardrobe? Like, would you wear it, and which color and which price range would you like to, you know, have a nice quality jacket? Like, you know, giving me like guidelines on how they would see it also, because like I have my vision obviously, but like, you know, being in my own head like doesn't mean that I'm going to create for people, because I'm not the only one wearing my stuff. So, you know, it's I do it for people. So obviously, yeah, I always ask my friend to give me advices on how they see it, how would they take it if it was that me that would propose a project like that.
Okay. And if there's now, maybe I ask a little bit, not a difficult question, but obviously you know the fashion industry. I mean, what would you want that changes? I mean, what would you ask to change in the fashion industry that you would expect that from today onwards, which now, I mean, here in Italy, that we have been really hit hard from the pandemia. Obviously, you know, most of the fashion industry produces in Italy because made in Italy is the best ever, not
Yeah.
because I'm Italian, but it's
No,
really
yeah.
known. What would you expect, or what would you want to tell, you know, to the fashion industry?
As I was saying, like the pace of it, it was really always like, you know, one fashion week is over and like then this the other one, and yeah, and also I would say like the pace of it and the sustainability. I think it when you want to be like a big brand and represented by La Chambre Syndicale or like the CFDA and everything, I think you would have to reach certain, you know, certain phases in your business development. Like sustainability has to be a part of it. That's 100%. And also inclusivity. I mean, I see a few brands that are trying to do, you know, the genderless kind of thing, but I think it's important to not just do oversized things for women, you know, to embrace this whole rainbow of different people and different genders, and it's really important. So more inclusivity, more sustainability, and slowing down a little bit.
No, and you were telling me that obviously you went to Parsons, which is an excellent school. I think it's one of, you know, quality-wise, it's one of the best. And is there, I mean, has fashion that influenced you a lot in your path, or you've been kind of not be intoxicated, but you've been kind of free? Is it something that you always been following, or is it something that maybe when you were small or a kid, or even in your early 20s, I mean, something that really influenced you about being, I mean, did you really want to work in the fashion industry, or you just have something that you like, but then transform it to something more personal
I
from
mean,
yourself?
I always loved, you know, I'm a really like manual person. I always loved to like create stuff. And when I was a kid, I was like drawing for hours and hours, and I always like made little like doll dresses for my dolls and everything. And I think while I was growing up, it became more something about like expressing yourself through your clothes. And like as a lot of people say, like your clothing is a little bit like your armor. So like some phases of my life, I was more like, you know, tomboyish, and then more feminine and more this and more that. And I think now I reached a point where I'm like super, I know what I want and I know who I am. So it's a path, but like I always loved fashion. I always loved like nice things and, you know, dressing up and, you know, all this expression, you know, expressing yourself through
No,
yeah.
it's important. No, I was looking before that there were some questions coming in, and you were telling before that you sell on e-commerce, and there was someone said, oh, I love your clothes, where I can buy them. So is there an answer to this that you can give?
Yeah. So it's alter-designs .com.
So
And
you have your small e-commerce, so
yeah.
okay. So this is the
Yeah.
only way to buy you right now, which is on
For
you.
now, yeah, but I'm working on some stuff too. I mean, as soon as I can, to do some pop-ups, because I would love to also like exchange with the clients and see how, you know, how they take the pieces and the collections and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think as you were saying, the tactility and all of that is so important because
It's
right
really
now,
important, yeah.
you know, everyone is asking how the fashion weeks are they going to be all digital. I think that obviously now we're in a process that it has to be digital because obviously we are confined of not, you know, having too
Mm.
much public events at all. But I always say that it's, I mean, I think technology is beautiful, but the thing of getting into a room, seeing a fashion show, a presentation, the touch of people, the emotion, that emotional
Yeah,
part,
yeah, yeah.
you're never gonna have it virtually, you know. So when they ask me, is it gonna always be like that? No, I mean, it's impossible. And as you
Yeah,
said, you were saying that for you, it's very important, you know, to touch the clothes, and I think this cannot at all be lost. So I mean,
exactly. No, that's for sure. But the only thing that I think about like the fashion shows, I think it has to be more true to like the clients. You know, like we do the clothes for the clients, not just for like press and all these important people in fashion. Also, obviously, they have to be there because they have to communicate on it. But I think for my fashion shows, for instance, I always have places for press and everything, but I try to introduce to have people from that love the brand to come also and see it. To have more inclusivity in terms of fashion shows as well. I think it's important.
okay. And how's this is where my curiosity, because obviously Monte Carlo is very near to Italy and we're kind of almost really very close, not even from Milan, it's probably not even 400 kilometers.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
is your relationship with Italy?
I mean, as you said, we're like neighbors. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, but I just found out that when I left for Paris and when I left out also after for New York, and it was my first time in Milan Fashion Week. I think it was 2 years ago, and I don't know. It's like when you're in Paris or in New York, it's like the big cities of fashion, and I think like Milan, it's like it's super true to itself. It's super authentic. It's really like it's a total different part of fashion that I was not really like born into, like
Hmm.
raised in, but it's super super interesting because it's really. I mean, I see like brands like Dolce and Gabbana or Prada and everything. They always have like a little tilt of Italian stuff. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see the Italian touch.
Yeah, no, no, it's exactly. So we're gonna wait in Milan soon when everything is gonna go
For
back.
sure.
I wouldn't say back to normality because I think it's gonna be a new normal. You know, I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be absolutely. Um, uh, and obviously, you travel a lot, and you were saying that you live between Paris, New York, and Monte Carlo. Which other place would you want to live as an experience? I mean, I guess you have been traveling a lot in the world. Is there any country that has really struck you and say, maybe, past even a few months or?
I mean, I would love to go to Berlin. That's for sure. Because I
Hmm.
think it's a really young and artistic place, and I think I could get a lot of inspiration and a lot of this underground phase of it. Also, I would love to. I mean, I never lived in London. I've been to London multiple times, but I never really lived there. Other than that, like South America, I would love that because they have
Ah,
this really true, this culture that is so different from ours, but also
yeah.
super Latin, super close to us. So it would be nice to see the how it would
Yeah,
work.
and you know that in South America they are very, very sensitive to being responsible. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
me, I do a lot of scouting. We just launched a big contest with Yux for responsible projects,
Mm-mm.
and we obviously our team is very small, but then we have collaborators around the world, and we have one in
Mm-mm.
South America, and there's so many
So much
talented
to do.
designers, and they're
Yeah.
all responsible because it's very. I think it's one of the countries which is very attached to artisanality, to
Yeah.
to to the
And
traditions,
to
and also to
nature
the
also.
earth,
Yeah.
to nature. Yeah. So I think, have
It's
you
a
ever
big part of.
visited South America?
I've been to Colombia once, and I've been to Brazil as well.
Okay. Okay.
But I would love to see like Argentina, Chile, Peru.
No, exactly. And obviously, I mean, your inspiration, as we were saying before, it's a lot on the street and the community. I mean, obviously, New York, it's always, every time you go out, it's an inspiration and
Mm-mm.
everything. Is there any other, maybe city or country that you never visited and you think that, I mean, it could give that,
I
back?
think I think I would love to see Korea and
Mm,
Japan because
You
again,
never been.
no.
You have to. It's
Yeah, and I think again it's like something so different and so far from our culture, and to be like completely drawn into like this crazy place like where your culture is not really here. So it's I love to put myself in a situation where I have to adapt, and
no, no.
that would be really nice.
Yeah, no, and I would also suggest you because obviously I've been traveling and I'm kind of in love with Africa and like Lagos in
Yeah.
Nigeria. There's so much. I mean, I think you would love it because also
Mm-mm-mm.
culturally and socially,
Sure.
it's.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to
I'll go
say that
everywhere.
exactly.
my
I
dream
was
my
saying
dream is
that I
to
didn't
see.
miss traveling, but I'm just talking
Yeah.
about that now.
Yeah, my dream is to see the whole world, to go to every country, to like meet every people from every country. So yeah.
Okay, exactly. And I mean, obviously, Alter it's small, it's growing, and it's about clothing. Are you thinking maybe in the future to develop new things, or it could be accessory or something maybe linked? Because I think that nowadays a brand can become really a community, so it can open to the beauty or to the homeware. Do you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
something that grows, or you want to keep it very?
No, I mean, I would love to do accessories and jewelry. I would love to do jewelry, shoes also. But for now, I want to keep it like that because I really want to. If I want to do it, I want to do it as sustainable as I can. And I know that accessories like leather, it's really complicated to like to get like to upcycle the materials and everything. So for now, I'm gonna stick to that, and it's a lot.
No, no, it's a lot. I can
But
imagine.
yeah, of course, I would love to develop like some accessories, some jewelry, some and it would be fun to see like how we can do like unisex and gender fluid accessories and jewelry as well. That would be really
No,
interesting.
no, but I think it's always nice, to think forward, even though it's maybe something far away, but also challenge yourself of,
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
thing news and getting a target. And, it's always something that I always tell, to
for
designers
sure.
to never, put a final end to your, to your
No, no,
to
that's for
your
sure.
creativeness. So I mean, and now I mean, it's obviously I've been invited to speak to you from Monte Carlo Fashion Week, which I never had the opportunity to come in the past because I always was traveling, and now it happens to me, to speak to you and have the pleasure to meet you. And this is the beauty part of being digital, of doing things
Yeah,
that you wouldn't have the time to do. And obviously they are very focused about giving the awareness of responsible projects, because now there is a scouting. I mean, there's going to be designers on the calendar that's going to be a winner. And I think this is something important, because I have to say that they've been doing it for, I mean, now for the responsible part, at least for the last 4 or 5 editions.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think this is what means when you have to have the power of media and awareness of doing a fashion week, which is not just about doing fashion shows
for
and
sure.
showing projects. So I think it's very important, and I guess that you also are proud of it, because it's your city, it's your hometown, and it's
Yeah, yeah,
giving a positive example. So I think
for sure.
it's good.
Yeah, we're leading the way in the sense of eco responsibility, sustainability. Even in the government in general, we're kind of leading the way into that. Even trying to show the example as a small country. So I thought it was logical for me to do
Yeah.
it as well.
And this is one of the last questions I'm going to ask. Obviously, you did Parson. Do you think that, like, because when we talk about, the new generation, they need, to be kind of pushed and be kind of, stimulated of being responsible. And all where it starts is from education, so obviously school. Do you think that fashion schools, I'm not talking about Parson because they know that, I know that they're very oriented on that. Do you think they need to do more? Are they doing enough to teach the younger generation to be more conscious?
I mean, I feel like it's also like the power of the student to ask more about the sustainability. Obviously, I think there have to be more like programs of like specifically how to source your fabric, how sustainable can you be, and all these questions that I asked myself when I was trying to go in that direction. But I mean, we're doing it more and more, and I think it's going to go towards the right way. And yeah.
No,
I
it's
think
good.
I think it's in the right way. Obviously, we're never doing enough for anything, but you
No,
know, going in
never
the right
enough.
direction is always it's already super nice, and to get to be responsible in that decisions are, it's really important as well.
No, it's true. It's never enough, and I think you cannot put, a stop. You always need to think forward and stimulate
Exactly.
yourself. And so, I mean, it was such a pleasure to speak to you. And
Such a pleasure
really,
as well.
one last thing. Maybe you want to add something. Then you tell me. Is obviously for me. I mean, I still push always the new generation because I think I always say it's our future. So I mean, we have to invest and support them. I know
Yeah.
that I already asked you before, I mean, how to be, but what would you be your message? I mean, I guess that, I think there are a lot of young people that follow you and that you really want, they're going to ask you probably even suggestions how to help. I mean, which is your message you want to give, to the people, not just to the ones that are listening right now, but in general to the young people, to what to do and what you would suggest to do?
I would say that I always try to, when you have your idea and your path in your mind, and you're like, you want to do something, try your best, give yourself like some time, give yourself some love and some, to do what you want to do, because like you're never gonna be as happy if you can wake up every morning being happy with what you do and being happy with yourself. So I think it's just like, see your path and just stay on it.
Yeah. And this is really the last question. If you wouldn't have done alter or being a fashion designer, what was your second thought? Or, when you're a kid, you always think, is there was something that you really wanted to do maybe at a certain point, and then obviously you've been struck about doing, your own brand?
I would have loved to be a reporter, doing all these like documentaries and stuff. I think because I'm really curious, so like, I would have go and dig this little news.
So it's always about traveling.
Exactly, always.